Do we want to touch on the Iran thing at all? I know Brandon mentioned it, and Nat seemed interested in talking about it as well. So
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It almost seems outdated. Like, I think it's worth mentioning, but it also just feels
Yeah.
like a handful of I told you so's.
Yeah, but you know what?
Yeah.
I definitely would like to mention because I think last time we wanted to talk about the 15,000 prisoners and be like, we don't know what's going on. We assume this is bullshit, and now we're like, yeah, that was definitely bullshit. So we could do that if you want.
yeah, I mean, it's also always worth mentioning because people don't see the retraction and things like that, which is kind of the whole fucking point of what they do here, right? They put these articles
Yeah.
out and then quietly release
Mhm.
retraction. I mean, this one got a lot of attention, but again, it got attention in our fucking, media circles,
Yeah.
right?
And I told the guys on the other show this too, so this is not news to Bryant. But like, I even came across there were a handful of accounts that reposted the Iran shit that I like previous to that had thought had pretty good takes. Everybody fucks up, whatever. They came through afterwards and were like, okay, we fucked up. That wasn't real. Like, we apologize for blah, blah. And I'm like, shit, yeah, like, that's the correct thing to do. You admit that you're wrong and you move on. And then, like, they followed it up with, but Iran is still a bunch of monsters and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, God damn, you doubled down immediately after you apologized. That's
That's
how
the
you do
reason
it.
I didn't post anything about it because I
Mhm.
wasn't actively keeping up with it to the point where I could form an opinion, and I'm not just going to shoot from the fucking hip.
Yeah.
I
One of
didn't post
my-
anything.
No, you go on.
I was just going to say, I didn't post anything because, unlike Newsweek, I don't like to say something that I can't back up with facts.
For real. One of my biggest regrets from the first season is like a throwaway line where I said like I'm no apologist for Iran, but and then I proceeded to like, talk about all the dumb shit we've done to Iran and all that. And now I'm like, you know what? I am an apologist for Iran. They've been totally fucked by us. Like for so long, and they're dealing with it like the way that they know how.
I'm not going to decry them or promote them. I don't know anything about them other than what our media and our government has told us, and that's not proving to be very accurate.
I just learned that they have near universal health care, and all of their industry is at least 60% state owned.
Oh yeah.
And I think the real reason why the US is messing with Iran, I mean, besides being embarrassed in the 70s, is that they control the Straits of Hormuz, I think is how it's
Exactly.
pronounced. So they control a major shipping lane that the US would rather they didn't.
Not to
Yeah.
mention all of their material support for the terrorist groups in the Middle East.
Yeah. I
All
mean,
right, well, I
really
hope you
goes
guys
back
are.
even. Oh, go ahead.
I hope you guys are cool with repeating all of that. So that I can, start the actual bot here because.
Oh, I thought we were recording. Right?
No, I was just letting these guys kind of roll. I was gonna say hi,
All right.
Brian, at some point. How's it going?
How's it going?
So let me start the actual recording, and then I actually didn't bring anything. Like I literally just thought of some things at 7:25 when I was putting this comment in here, and so I
Fuck
really
it.
am just gonna like, what's that?
I said, fuck it.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just letting you guys know ahead of time. I'm going to rely on you guys to like bring some takes or whatever. And then, so I was going to ask in that way if Brandon, do you mind if I hand it over to you to start talking about Iran, and then you guys can just do everything you just fucking did. I'm just going to tee it up in case I have to go to the bathroom or something. I've been drinking.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
All right, it's the live show for this week. Got myself, Mike He Him, and Ward He Him from the Turn Lefts podcast. We got Brandon He Him and Brian He Him from the Cars and Comrades podcast. We got Nick He Him from the Intervention podcast. We got Nat He Him from the Collective Action Comics podcast. Yeah, that's everybody, right? It's funny how quick that turned into a packed house. We thought nobody was going to show up.
I thought more people were going to show up.
I forgot about this until Brandon reminded me like 10 minutes ago. So
Well, you guys also just got done recording yourselves, right?
I can't believe y'all aren't totally burned out.
I'm getting there.
Well, that being said, before you do get burned out, Brandon, let me hand it to you first of all, and we can talk about Iran because we wanted to talk about it last week, but we just didn't get to it. And I think we wanted just to talk about the 15,000 prisoners that were sentenced to death. Apparently, it was like this headline that made the news. It was, of course, the topic of big infographics and everything. Definitely went viral among all the Rad Libs, who have since now taken down that post because that was bullshit. And I don't know if we mentioned on the last episode. I can't remember if we got it on there or not, but it was probably in the pre-recording, and it's going to sound like it's fake for me to even say it. But like we were just saying, we don't know anything about it, but our suspicion is it's probably bullshit because it just sounds sensational. You know what I mean? It sounds like some fake news. But Brandon, if you want to just take it and talk about it for a bit.
Okay, so if anyone came across that before me, I apologize for lying, but like I remember seeing the very first person post it, and I threw it up in the group chat for this show immediately. Like, does anyone because this does not seem real. Like on its face, this single headline does not seem real. And we didn't talk about it on the show last week because we just didn't have any facts to support that it wasn't real. Just, a good idea of what CIA propaganda looks like because we've all seen it a half a dozen times to this effect in our life. Like, it's pretty easy to spot. And so, yeah, we thought about talking about it. We ended up not because it's it's hard to disprove something that's completely made up. That's a thing that conservatives and reactionaries always have a real easy time with. Like, and so yeah, I threw it up, and lo and behold, both our gut instincts and all of our initial research proved that it was fucking made up. Newsweek didn't do shit. They just made up a number and threw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, we heard 15,000 people got arrested. We assume they're going to be murdered.
I think it's important that we make it clear that it wasn't Newsweek that made that up. It was Radio Free Europe. And people need to understand that Radio Free Europe and Radio Free Asia, their actual literal job is to look at the conditions on the ground in neighboring states, right? And make stuff up based on those conditions. They can be it doesn't have to be they're not looking at these conditions to say, okay, well we're going to contort this and make it seem believable. They're literally taking what they've observed and then twisting it however they need to weaponize it. And they make stuff up and then just trickle it to dumb, corporate media. Well, I say dumb. It's like maybe dumb reporters, but the people who run the corporate media know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and wasn't Tucker Carlson's dad, didn't he work for Radio Free Europe or something back in the day?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I believe so, and Tucker himself helped with the Contras.
Yeah.
No.
What?
So
Yeah.
Whoa,
like
wait, hold on.
That's like a whole thing. Like
that CIA to Fox News pipeline.
Wait a minute,
Yeah.
fuck, you're on. I want to talk about this.
I
That
wish
was
I had
something-
more facts about it, off the top, but I don't know. I
There's
did
a
the research,
TrueAnon up on it.
yeah, something
Oh.
like that. And then there's a bunch of Twitter threads that delve deep into it that I've read up on, and I've just committed to memory now that he helped with the Contras, and now that's all I need to know now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the way we should look at it, because I've seen a lot of shaming, for people like us online being pushing back on this, being like, hey, let's look into this. Let's see if this is propaganda. Let's look into the veracity of it, So at the end of the day, I guess I look at it like this, and it's I don't know Iranian. I don't know any Iranians. I don't know what's going on the ground there. I'm not there. I just know the history of the U.S. with respect to this country, and the only thing that I can feasibly do
And every other
is
country.
is combat the manufacturing consent machine, the inventing reality machine that justifies the U.S. intervention, extended sanctions, et cetera, that's just going to make shit worse for the Iranian people, right? So again, if solidarity with victims of police brutality, if that's indeed what's going on, and if it is some kind of workers-led movement, awesome, solidarity. The best thing that we can do is push back on disinfo campaigns that would do nothing but harm any kind of movement, actual people's movement on the ground there. That's all we can do here, right?
Yes, absolutely. And you get that response from these people well, what do you want us to do? Remain silent? Yes.
Yes.
I want you to shut the fuck up. You can't do anything. You cannot help. You can only make it worse.
Are you an Iranian citizen with a genuine take on the circumstances in your country? Then yes, I do want to hear from you.
Right? Are you part of a chapter of the two-day party that hasn't been overrun by capitalists? Then yes, I'll listen to you.
Yeah, my understanding, regardless of the actuality of what's happening in Iran, U.S. intervention is not going to help, flat out. At the end of the day, it's never helped or benefited a single person overseas. It's not going to now.
Well, maybe a couple capitalists, right?
Well,
But-
Yeah, it'll help their wallets, but
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
actual people,
heroin
especially
dealers.
proletarians.
Right.
And do you
No
think
one will be helped. Only
do
hurt.
we think, I mean, obviously we don't, it's rhetorical, but do we think that a workers-led revolution, a proletarian revolution, would be stupid enough to reach out to the king of the bourgeois democracies, America, for help? Of course not. There's no Iranian that I would trust.
Any principled group would not know.
Exactly. Exactly. Like the people who'd want to help, genuinely want to help, will not reach out to the number one destructive force on the earth.
I mean, I could understand wanting to support a revolutionary movement, but I just always, when I see one happening, I have to inspect it further to see what they actually are trying to go after, and then see who else wants that same thing. And if you're talking
Mhm.
about especially regime change, if you're talking about overthrowing a government, then my first immediate question is, does the U.S. also want that government overthrown? Is that convenient to U.S. business interests? Does that like drop the price of oil for the U.S.? Does that somehow make some strategic land available for the U.S.? Does something, is that really in the U.S.'s interest? And if it is, then I just immediately am suspicious. There's almost no way that I would support it. I would really, I just don't know if you could convince me at that point. What you got, Brandon?
I really appreciate that. Like here, if I want something to change, I need to vote for it. But there, we actually have to bomb them. They can't just vote for whatever they want.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like with all this shit, suddenly something springs up out of the ground and everybody's an expert, right? Like I think we're all being showing a little bit of humility, a little bit pat on the back for ourselves, and that we're not getting
That's
too
why
deep
we
into
didn't
the
talk about
weeds
it last
here.
week, because we're not fucking
Right.
experts.
You know what I mean? But like I do think we do spend a lot of time on, the position that we're trying to take, which is being anti-US imperialism, right? So, but part of this is I think we probably do have to, greater or lesser degree, some understanding of the history of the US empire with respect to Iran. Iran as a state being labeled an enemy is nothing new. Okay. I mean, it goes back to the 50s and beyond when the Iranian people, mostly through Mossadegh and the Tuda party, wanted to nationalize oil and, remove British and American influence and in some ways grow closer to Soviet influence. And you know what?
But that sounds
We
like a really good thing. What happened to them?
yeah, and we fucking cooed them and like using essentially the same playbook that we did in Guatemala with the fruit company. It was the Anglo-Iranian oil company, right? And CIA goes in, all the manufacturing of consent, all the classic playbook tactics come out, and we have instability, right? We had a strong people's movement. So again, just to say that to Mike's point, anytime a true people's movement comes through that looks to, remove, undue foreign influence in the economy, remove US influence or Anglo influence, whatever it may be, that's not what we're going to be lining up behind.
Supposedly,
Exactly.
Iran too was the country where the CIA felt like they really found their footing on subverting foreign governments, and
Mhm.
I think Jakarta was the one where they like found the
Yeah.
tactic that they stuck with from then on.
Guatemala and Iran set the playbook for Jakarta and everything that came
Mhm.
after in many ways.
That was what Wisner and Kermit Roosevelt, right?
Yep.
Frank Wisner, yeah.
I can't take it seriously. His name's Kermit.
I know. That's so good. But like there's even too like when we say things like and maybe we do fall into the trap too of relying too heavily on
Facts.
yeah, that, but also like sort of like some like idioms that we drive home that begin to lose their meaning. They get too satiated, right? Like we talk about people getting like funded by the CIA or funded by the NED, and that just kind of washes over a lot of people that don't really know what we mean. But like anybody who's done any kind of real on the ground organizing here knows that you have to either take time off of work or go late into the night. You have to buy supplies. You have to sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice, right, for your organizing. So if somebody like the CIA is literally paying people on the ground to do that, to like leave their jobs or buy markers to make signs, you have to like ask yourself like why? Why are they doing that, right? That's what
And not only
funding means.
Well, and also, how are they doing that? Like that can get really shadowy because we have so much evidence of the CIA and other U.S. intelligence orgs like through front organizations and through like not even things that are that shadowy. And now you can do it like with what PACs or whatever the political organization would be, and it makes me suspicious of all the people who seem to make money, who make a living on social media like using a message that is very friendly to the establishment. You know what I mean? Like just saying like, oh, actually the U.S. is not that bad. Actually, like if you think the U.S. is like super racist, that's because you're a Russian propagandist trying to like sow division. Actually, like if you think the U.S. is bad and has like an imperialist history, that's because you're like a Chinese bot or something in the 50 Cent Army. It's like it makes me wonder like how they're making a living saying that because I don't know. I don't. It doesn't seem like that's that outlandish of a message. It's not like that original. That just sounds like a boomer dad from the 50s. It's like why are you? Who's paying you to say that? And through what foundation are they doing that? What you got, Nate?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, to take it into like I guess a more domestic sense, wasn't the DNC paying that Brooklyn Dad Defiant or whatever, like the guy that
Oh,
gets on and
really?
chills for the Democrats?
Oh yeah, I mean
So
on both sides, definitely.
yeah, so I'm saying like if they're gonna do that, then of course like the U.S. state, the imperial apparatus is gonna have people paid to sow their shit out there, right? I mean, of course.
I mean, to quote the
I
greatest
str-
Twitch streamer ever, Vosh, who hasn't taken money from the feds?
Jesus.
I
Yeah,
struggle
we
with
could just
that because when you exist in left spaces, it's an inevitability that someone's going to get called a Fed, and I'm always just like, guys, just chill out. They're not a Fed. But the hard reality is that it might not be the person you think, but taught us that there are Feds. There are probably a lot of them, and that's like when you say that somebody's like shilling for the Democrats. I am reluctant to believe that they're a Fed because the Feds were more effective than that. Like
No, I was just saying
the dude who
they would
got Fred
pay people
Hampton
to do
killed knew
that.
him for years at that point, and he was in deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like most of COINTELPRO was like getting people to actually act on like individualistic, adventurous violence so they could be arrested. I mean, that wasn't the whole project, but that was a lot of it.
Yeah, and fuck, what was I gonna say? Yeah, I mean they've done this shit before, so there's no reason to think that they're not doing it right now.
Yeah, I guess I should have changed my verb tense.
The thing that I
Yes.
really take away from the whole 15,000 people sentenced to death is really simple and it's not snarky. It's good that you care and you want to do something. You have to pay attention because when it seems too over the top to be real, there's a good chance that it's too over the top to be real.
And I think the way that this the kernel of truth in this was that some branch of the legislature in Iran, the parliament or whatever, they voted for like a non-binding whatever you call it statement to say
Yeah, they
that
signed a letter.
they signed a letter saying that these people should get the death penalty. They should be executed.
They should receive severe punishments. I don't think it actually said death
Oh,
penalty.
really? Yeah. So it was
I
like
don't speak Iranian. I'm with Nick here, so I don't know.
yeah. So that like this is about as like baked into the law as like the Green New Deal is, at this point. It's not something that I don't think these people have even been convicted yet. They're still being held. So
Again, it sounds like after the fact because you just said it, Brian. But that actually was my kind of first reaction to hearing that was like, okay, what did the U.S. media and the U.S. intelligence tell them to twist it in such a way that what actually happened that they made it seem like they sentenced 15,000 people to death? And my first
Right.
thought was, oh, on paper they said they sentenced them to death, just like what was it like during the uprisings here in 2020 when they would arrest a bunch of protesters, they would sentence them to like life in prison for treason or something. It was some I
Oh
can't
yeah,
remember what it was, but they
J20, the J20 protesters.
Mhm.
And
So
don't forget
imagine
Tom Cotton's fucking op-ed in the New York Times saying that like protesters should be like gassed or whatever.
I was thinking about that sort of shit the whole time that like meme was going around. Like we have at least half of the government here that would sign that same letter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Make our own bed first.
usually what I thought. I was like, what was the actual sentence that was on paper that they twisted to make it seem like they're going to actually sentence 15,000 people to death who will actually never be put to death. But of course, it's just I don't know. I feel like Nick, I've said it to you before, but it makes me feel like we're the only normal people because it took me like a couple of years of getting into like Marxism, Leninism, and distrusting the U.S. media to even have just what should be probably the common sense reaction, which is that like a normal country, just anywhere else in the world, is not going to sentence 15,000 people to death. Like your media is fucking lying to you. But I don't know. People can just still, I think, be tricked into thinking some outlandish shit.
If they did that, it would have to be done quietly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean, what do you think is the number of people that are in internment camps in the U.S. right now? You think it's less than 15,000? I don't know. Could be more. We don't even know.
Yeah, there's no way to know.
It's
Unknowable.
almost definitely more than 15,000.
Sorry.
I mean, the
Ward.
number of unaccompanied children is in the like mid 2000s right now. I have like a daily update.
No, I was just gonna say, like, this is just like right in line with how the U.S. uses atrocity propaganda. Like, we're seeing it now with like, claiming 15,000 people are going to be executed. Also currently with, they're trying to bring back they originally used it with Gaddafi, giving the soldiers Viagra and using rape as a weapon of war. They're using that with Russian soldiers currently. Saddam, human shredder, Kuwaiti soldiers taking babies out of incubators, Chinese treatment of Uyghurs, Chinese organ harvesting. This is just perfectly in line with how the U.S. uses atrocity propaganda. And so that's like, as soon as I heard the numbers, I was like, I'm gonna wait. There's no way that this could be accurate.
Or when Kim Jong-un was killing people with rocket launchers. Do y'all remember that?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and
These
killing
are
people for
AA
not
guns,
getting
right?
his haircut or for getting his haircut. You know, it's funny. You know, the responses that I've seen, like the we mentioned like people doubling down on it later, or doing these half-assed apologies or mea culpas and all that. One of the things going around right now in response to it, or to the very like normal reaction of I don't think this is real, the response to that has been to claim that the term atrocity propaganda is brand new, and in a sort of a weird, twisted way, it's like people on the left accusing left wingers of like being SJWs in a sense for using this new term, atrocity propaganda, that's been around for decades, right? And it blows my mind because it's such a good illustration of how sophisticated the propaganda machine is that we are up against.
Yeah, I can only imagine it's been around since like ever, since just propaganda existing. But I know like some of the earliest recorded or documented cases like was back in like World War One. Like Canadian media was saying that German troops were like crucifying Canadian prisoners of war.
Like
I
the
mean,
first,
even
I
think
think the
about like
first
the
agreed upon one
Lusitania
is
in the fucking Spanish-American War. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the
remember the
same
Maine.
shit, you know, like all that. Yeah,
it's
the
a
Maine was
Hearst
the
model, right?
right.
Ah, shit. Now I'm drawing a blank. But what was the ship that got bombed so we entered Vietnam?
Oh, in the
The
Gulf of
Gulf of
Tonkin.
Tonkin.
Gulf.
Oh, you
the
mean
Gulf of
Jim
Yeah.
Morrison's
Tonkin.
dad?
What?
Jim Morrison's dad was the naval commander at the Tonkin quote incident.
I don't know what to do with that right now. I'll deal
See,
with.
this
I'll
sounds
think
like
about that later.
this sounds like some shit that like when your brother tells you like that Laura Bush's dad was who is it, Aleister Crowley or something, because they get too high and they read into some like conspiracy theory shit online. Like that's what that sounds like.
But also, there are just sometimes connections that don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
it does happen.
It does happen. I don't know if that's one of them, but it does happen.
Do we want to keep harping on about Iran, or do we want to?
Yeah, no. I mean, I feel like the same people who were upset about that, like I said, are the same people who are upset about Twitter drama. Which
Wait,
was the other thing I wanted to talk
that's a
about
really
today.
good transition. But I was gonna say something Iran, Middle East, Arab Spring, Twitter. Aha, there we go.
I got one more thing about Iran. Leaving aside the politics, they kept building the Ford Festiva there until 2005, which I think is a cool move. You could buy a brand new Ford Festiva in 2005 in Iran. Sorry, I just had to bring the cars in there.
Yeah,
Is it a
there
good
was
car?
I love it.
I mean, that's the thing, Brian. Would you want to? Like, are they? Why? Like,
Bryant likes some weird cars. He might.
I almost bought a Ford Festiva like a few years ago. They're cool little basic economy cars that people can put big engines in. You could put the engine from a Miata and then put a turbo on it and make like 250 horsepower in something the size of a shoebox. So that's why I like them.
okay. I mean, I can't talk. I drive a Corolla, and I fucking love it. It's a little
Hey,
tank.
there's nothing wrong with
in
Corolla.
In the Micist People's Republic, everyone will be forced to have a Toyota Corolla and a Black Lab. Sorry. It's
You know, the
mandatory.
good thing about a Corolla, it doesn't catch on fire. unlike Teslas.
There's
go.
the transition. Yeah.
There we go.
Speaking of things,
I thought that was a
catching on
personal
fire,
attack on me for a second.
I've heard that story.
I mean, so that's the take on Twitter, right? It's going down in flames, and Elon is like bragging about it. Like I think that we've seen several tweets to the effect of him being Nero or the Titanic and bragging that it's like as high up in the air as it's ever been. It's like, yeah, bro. I mean, things are not looking good. And then, of course, then we can talk about him bringing Trump back on, which I did think just happened last night. And
I love it.
Go ahead.
I do think Trump will hop on, but I love that his first response was, "Nah, fuck Twitter."
Wait, what? He said that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he said that he's with Truth Social all the way now, and that he's not going to come back to Twitter.
Ha ha.
Like, what a fuck Trump, but what a boss move.
What a
Like,
fucking world.
just watching Trump and Elon Musk like humiliate each other is just, it's beautiful.
My God.
That's why he did it,
Yeah.
right? Was to just get some heat because it's like he knows that it's a dying flame, so he's just trying to like get everybody back on there. Like that was the big
He's got Jordan
speculation when he-
Peterson back.
That
that
tweet
too,
was
right?
insane. And I try not to use that word, but that tweet was wild, man. That was unbelievable.
He's tweeting every 4 minutes.
No.
Who Jordan Peterson is?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, it's deranged. Like I
Which is funny
rarely,
because now that's
rarely go
small
on
news compared
Twitter.
to Trump.
hmm
No, I like read. I signed back onto Twitter after years just for this mess. And Jordan Peterson has by far been the most interesting because it was literally a series of tweets that was every like 4 or maybe 8 minutes, but like just like of tweets, and every one of them was wilder and less coherent than the last. I don't think the dude's problem with benzos is over. Not if he's speaking that way.
hmm
Yeah.
It's just a dumpster fire. And he's also firing everyone. I mean, I think like the infrastructure in terms of I don't know how to do software or anything like that, but from what it sounds like all of like the security software kind of maintenance and all that kind of shit is crumbling, right? And then I also saw something about how like he's only asking for like the most dedicated people, so like these simps who want to build Twitter 2.0 to stay around and work like 80 hours a week just to keep this dumpster fire floating or whatever. So like there's apparently a handful of people that are going to stick it out for Daddy Elon, right? Then the other thing is he sent some kind of email to European, and this was a post I just saw on Instagram a little while ago, and I can't remember the page it was on. I like to give them credit if I remembered, but so he sent an email to like all the European employees, like firing a shit ton of them, right? But what he failed to understand, according to this post, was that we have a lot of criticisms rightly about Europe and shit like that when it comes to imperialism. They have managed to get, I think, a lot. They do a lot better on labor, the European Union does, than we do, at least for the people that live there. And you can't just do that. These people like work, they have contracts, and there's much more. It's not just like what is it, like at will employment like it is here, you know what I mean? So he literally can't do this, and they're going to probably come back with him with like legal charges and shit like on a collective basis, which is fucking dope. So it just it seems like, and again, it's probably a little bit biased, but I just think it's reality because that's what we're seeing. It just seems like all sides it's crumbling, and we're just waiting to see it. And that's fucking great because Twitter sucks, and people should just go outside and get off Twitter.
So it could have be true in Europe as well, but I had heard that was the case in California, that they had specific rules regarding like layoffs under circumstances like this. But even if that's not true, he fired something like half the company when he got it, and he issued an ultimatum last week that you could either accept 3 months severance pay and leave, or you could stay on board to help build his Twitter 2.0 or whatever fucking dumpster fire he's building.
Hardcore.
And your benefits in that case are that you get your normal pay, but you're going to be working over 80 hours a week. So 75% of this was a projected number. 75% of the people took the buyout and left,
Hell
which
yeah.
puts the company at a total loss of around 88% of its employees. And it's the funniest part, though, is reading the stories about people who were fired, and then he had to beg them to come back because they were so fucking vital. Like, supposedly one of the dudes who like is in charge with like the security of the building itself and like the key card readers got fired, and they all locked themselves out of the building and had to fucking beg him to come back.
Oh, is that
So
what
good.
happened with that?
That's what I read. I'm taking all of this with a grain of salt for the time being, but it's so
Yeah.
fucking
a couple quick
entertaining.
hits. Like Brian, I know you had something, but I just want to say there were a couple quick hits on that. Like it was the security in the building. He had to call back people who had to like figure out the two-factor authentication. Like people, if you logged out, you could not log back into Twitter. And I think right now even you can post entire movies to Twitter because the bot that would take down the copyright notices doesn't work anymore. But those are the ones I remember off the top of my head. But
Yeah,
what
what was that? Like to Gary authentication was like the meme going around. It's like just some dude named Gary, and
Oh, yeah,
just
it was
like
a
one
guy.
dude named Gary, just like messaging people back, go like sending a screenshot. It's like, which one of these is a duck?
Uh,
Well,
The-
how
the
will he
thing
learn
I-
otherwise?
The thing I heard was that he fired the people that were responsible for like regulatory compliance in Europe. So like their like business practices and like data storage and stuff like that. They just don't have anyone doing that right now. So like the European Regulatory Commission is going to be like on their ass to like with fines and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's a real dumpster fire. I don't know like about the labor law stuff exactly.
I saw some conservative asshole tweet like, now that 88% of Twitter's gone, we've cut away all the fat and we know like what it really takes to run a business. Like, dude,
Oof.
run it where? Into the ground?
Yeah.
But since we're a leftist podcast, like just from a labor perspective, like this is the shit that we've fought 150 years to not do. He's demanding 80-something hour work weeks, firing everybody willy-nilly. Like, not to mention just the fact that, like, let's say you are a genius fucking coder and are willing to work 84 hours a week. You think the quality of your work Sunday night would be the same as your quality of work on a Monday morning or Tuesday after a weekend of rest? Rest is a real goddamn fucking thing. Fatigue is mental and physical. So, like, even if he has his last, like, 37 people there coding, like, that, nothing's going to be right ever fucking again.
I mean, what he's doing is like a cartoonish level of evil billionaire behavior, right? Like it's like what is it? The Roger Rabbit fucking level of come in and just destroy everything for profit. It's like, it's weird that it's like so, on one hand, it's so nakedly evil and predatory. And on the other hand, failing so badly that it gives us so much material to laugh at. And it's so satisfying in that way because it seems so nakedly to be crashing and burning, but at the same time, he's still going on the same course. And so, what I wanted to ask you guys was like, what do you think of the idea that Musk is just like a fucking plant for the government to kill Twitter?
Yeah, controlled
Because
demolition.
I really feel like that may be the case, and like I don't want to. It sucks. Like I don't want to lend credence to the liberals who are freaking out about the death of Twitter as if it was the most important communication platform in the history of humanity. You know what I mean? Like when they fucking hated it a month ago, like they hated how much time they spent on it. They considered it like a fucking time suck and like a drain on their life. Like not that
Hell
long
site,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. But
Well,
I mean,
what's that saying? Like, don't attribute malice to what can be explained by stupidity or something. Like, it's
Yeah, but I
possible
mean,
that Musk is
I
just
just
this dumb.
I
would like
disagree
to.
with that
I'd like to
idiom.
think
I
that,
disagree
like,
with that aphorism, if you will. I disagree with that
Yeah.
entirely. I think
Yeah.
that is running cover. I think that's a smoke screen for Malice. I think Malice put that out in the universe so that stupidity would cover its ass.
I mean, in general, no, it's actually probably good. But I think in this kind of case, when this person is already funded entirely by the government, when this guy is already the richest person in the world because of U.S. government funds, because he fucking sells carbon credits, because he gets government contracts for weapons defense projects, because he supplies their fucking Starlink fucking weapons, whatever, everywhere, like. The shit that the right wingers are freaking out about and Democrats tend to ignore and makes us look crazy because we think they're actually problems because they're material things that are actually happening. All that shit that makes Elon the fraud that he is. I don't think it's really that outlandish that he is just at the government's beck and call. And that's why he has this kind of ghost wealth all the time, built on fucking nothing, even though everyone knows he's a fraudster. And his dedicated following are a bunch of like fictitious people online that you can never pinpoint, and if they do exist in real life, they're a bunch of fucking white dorks who obviously spend too much time online and are bought in by the fucking online bots. Like, it's not fucking real. It's very obviously not real, but everybody's got their hands up. Let me start with Ward and then go around.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, yeah, I hate that phrase as well. Like, especially like it just makes me immediately think of like, oh, like the bumbling empire, like
Legacy of Ashes.
rhetoric. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. It makes me think of that. It's like, no, 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 it's very purposeful. And especially Mike, like you're talking in terms of Elon Musk. Like this wouldn't be the first time him being associated with the CIA in any business venture. Like when he was starting up SpaceX, wasn't the dude that like got him the
Yep.
NASA contract, worked for the CIA and helped him try to buy ICBMs from Russia just to have rockets for SpaceX? Like, so this wouldn't be the first time.
hmm
And like, how's he getting away with supplying Starlink without being labeled a defense contractor?
Hmm.
Yeah, Mint Press had a good article on that. We should link that if we can on this episode,
Yes.
Mike.
Yeah, I would be interested in that.
Yep.
So I will say, like, we talk a lot about Elon Musk on Cars and Comrades, so we have a lot of information to draw from. And I see where Bryant's statement can be read in like as bad in terms of like empires and stuff. If we're working on cars or something simple, it tends to be a lot more true. But I don't know where to go with this with Elon Musk, because I will cite two specific instances of things Elon Musk has done that will support either conclusion. Uh, Musk's Tesla factories are just constantly rife with OSHA violations, some of which include things like he removed the backup noise from fork trucks and the flashing lights because he just didn't like the way they looked and sounded. So it is entirely possible that he is just flushing $44 billion down the toilet because he's really fucking stupid. He also has gone out and said after the fact, so maybe it was covering his own ass, that the tunnels that he was building, like God, now I'm drawing a blank. Bryant, the
Hyperloop?
tunnels,
Boring
Hyperloop.
Company?
Yeah.
Oh, the Hyperloop.
He has openly stated that Hyperloop was basically an excuse to divert money away from public transit so that it would maintain more of a car centric infrastructure. So he is both incredibly stupid and cunning and malicious.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's important too that we keep ourselves grounded as like material Marxists, right? Like when we talk about how he's got all this ghost money, all billionaires have ghost money from the government, right? All of their industry is subsidized by the state. That's why anarcho-capitalism can never work, because it all has to be subsidized by the government. But I don't think that that's an argument to say, like, just because he's like all the rest of the billionaires, I don't think that's an argument to say that he's also not at the government beck and call, right? Like he could be like some sort of plant, like there could be the controlled demolition, and I obviously cannot say one way or the other. I
He
could
could also
be
just be
easily
uniquely
convinced.
megalomaniacal.
Well, I mean that, and
I-
you're right, and that might be why he is perfectly suited to be an agent.
I mean, if I didn't make it clear earlier, like I am 100% in on him being a government op. Like if he didn't start out that way, obviously I don't think anybody like is. You're not just like born into it. Obviously, they got to get you at some point. So when he started to be some kind of upcoming, rich son of a fucking apartheid billionaire emerald miner or whatever, they got to him and they started funding his projects. And he may not even realize it. He could actually be that dumb that he doesn't realize he's an op. He could just be thinking, yeah, I'm just that great that the government really loves giving me these contracts, and I just love doing stuff for them too. Like the mafia has goons too. I mean,
You're looking for the term useful idiot.
yeah. So I mean, I'm 100% in on that being the case. Like he is put in the places that he's put in, not of his own volition, that he realizes, not because he's just so witty and charming and amazing, but because it's useful to the fucking establishment, and that has a lot of tentacles. And I think of
Didn't
him
he
sort of
like
like the
decide? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
well, he's just like the Howard Hughes of our time, which like,
I was
and
going to
if
make
that's an
that
outlandish
connection.
take too, yeah, and I mean if that's outlandish too, then I'm 100% on Howard Hughes being co-opted in the same way. So if like anybody wants to come at me for that too, that's fine. But like,
We
feel
covered
free, like you
Project
guys don't have to
Azorian.
agree with me. Like, yeah.
So
Sorry,
like
Nat.
didn't
What'd you have?
didn't he just, I mean there was the recent Twitter purchase, I thought, because I haven't been keeping up with it, so please somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I thought that just came out of fucking nowhere. I thought that it like wasn't going to happen. And then suddenly it did.
No, that's not correct.
That's
No,
not
it
correct?
did because
Okay.
he like signs it. It had to because he signed some documents and committed to it, and then they held him to it. And yeah, then he had to like take a bunch of like loans from Saudi Arabia or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah, he
no
had to
way.
like borrow against Tesla stock as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Like something about this fucked up Tesla stock. But yeah, he was actually forced to buy it because he committed to it. Like it seems that he committed, realized he fucked up. Kind of like how when you get really high and you start buying shit online, and then the next day you're like, "Fuck, I don't have any money."
That shit.
He pulled that, but on a multi dozens of billions of dollars scale. So he started coming up with all of these excuses, like, "Oh, actually, they said it was like 2% bots, but it's really 113% bots, and I don't want that. I never agreed to that." And so they had to take him to court in, I believe it was Delaware, and the court, from what I've heard, to this specific type of like contract violation, Delaware is not very friendly, and they ruled against him. Now, if I could have those details completely wrong, like I mix things up a lot, but in general, yeah, the court ruled that he had to go through with the purchase because his reasons for not doing so were stupid.
I guess I just didn't see it for a while. I guess it just fell off my radar. I was under the impression they just came out of nowhere, but obviously I'm wrong.
You know,
Because we hate on hope.
I guess the frustrating thing to me about this is, regardless of how this shakes out, I don't see a lot of opportunity to actually I guess I don't see people changing their views on him. Like, you know, we know what we know. We have the correct position on Elon Musk and his role in the government and things like that. But like the people that like simp for him, that back him up, that think he is some fucking genius, you know, the genius of our time, like one of these great inventors, like there's people out here that think this kind of shit. And I don't think that this is going to change their mind at all, right? Which is very frustrating in some ways, because this is a good example of, one, you know, the limits of like individualism, and two, an exposure, as you guys have been talking about all along, of the true linkage between the capitalists and the capitalist state, right? But, you know, in my line of work, I sometimes encounter like these, you know, small business tyrants, we'll call them, you know what I mean, working on different projects and shit like that. And like, I literally hear these people like we're talking about like some kind of like marketing campaign or whatever it is, and I hate that fucking term, but they're like, "Oh, that's like some Elon Musk shit." I'm like, "Well, you know what, guys, we might not want to be doing that right now. Have you been paying attention at all?" You know? And then like the same person sees like some kind of it was like a Tesla 4-wheeler. I was like, "Oh, don't buy that for your kid. It might blow up." And they look at me like I've got 4 fucking heads. It's like, are you guys like, but like my point is like the people that are invested in Elon Musk and what he stands for, they're going to be with him no matter what. Just annoying. That's just more of a rant, not a point.
I think you're right. And I think
Yeah,
it's
there's
because
never
it
a point.
subliminally represents like their unexplored ideology.
Yeah, he's you know, he's
He's
that
got the
he's you know, he's the guide, he's that guiding light for the temporarily embarrassed billionaire that everybody thinks that they are.
yeah,
There's never
they
going to
too
be a
could be
point.
worth.
Sorry, I just want to say there's never going to be a point at which enough of his projects fail that everybody acknowledges that he was a fraud to begin with. There's going to be like some kind of way that his defenders can stand him still, and they will. And
Yeah.
that's just kind of how everything is. And that's just so weird and like boring about everything now is like everything's just like a slow collapse that never really gets acknowledged on like any kind of wider scale. I'm always talking about like the sacrifice zones and how the collapse that everybody's prepping for is never going to happen. It's just going to be like your neighborhood maybe becomes like the next sacrifice zone, but everybody else is still going and like having coffee and going to work. But sorry, Brandon, what'd you have?
Oh, I was just going to say that the reason that he never really loses people is all of his successes are attributed to his genius, and all of his failures are attributed to outside interference. And no one pays attention at all to the fact that all of his successes were purchased from someone else.
Yeah.
Exactly. The whole idea of Musk is like of him continuing to be, you know, beatified basically. I think that stands the test of history. I mean, look at Edison, right? He had many more patent failures than successes, and yet he's consistently held up and sanctified.
He murdered that elephant.
He did. He did murder
Yes,
that
fuck
elephant
elephants. I hate them.
to prove
come
that
on.
his
No, I'm joking,
rivals
obviously.
was it prove that direct current was more dangerous than alternating current, or the opposite? I should know this. I'm an
Yeah,
engineer.
the
but I don't know.
opposite.
Come on, did you not watch The Prestige? Come on, bro.
But I did watch that Bob's Burgers episode.
I was about to say
Topsy.
that's the best like depiction of that. That's my favorite one.
It's very good.
And Tesla, like Nikola Tesla,
Mhm.
the not capitalist dude.
The good Tesla.
Yeah, the good Tesla kind of fades into history when he was actually very brilliant and I think had some pretty decent politics from what I know about him. So
A pigeon
he's not
love.
the
I
guy.
know.
What's that?
He fell in love with a pigeon.
Oh, I think he had some problems too.
Face.
I mean, maybe
I mean, don't we all?
Yeah.
that's all right.
I would also, just for the record, say that there's supposedly a lot of stuff about Tesla made up to discredit him for some reason.
Yeah.
No. If somebody tells me that somebody fell in love with a pigeon, my liberal brain tells me that must be true.
I know that
Fucking
he's
modern liberals over
Yeah,
here.
the modern liberals.
I wanted to, in the way of trying to fill up the last 20 minutes that we got, I wanted to see if you guys wanted to make any predictions, getting back to like the Twitter drama itself, because regardless of whether Elon is an op or not, and whether the Twitter demolition is controlled or not, it's still demolishing, right? Like it's going down. And I don't know. I mean, does anybody want to kind of give any time frames as to when they think Twitter will like? It's not going to stop existing, right? Like it's not just going to shutter its
It's
doors.
the new Tumblr.
Yeah, it'll just be the new, the MySpace. Tumblr is probably more relevant. Thank you, Brandon. But and then also, do you think like Trump is going to do anything? But I guess you already said he's like dedicated to Truth Social. Like, do you think he goes back on that anyway? Like,
Yeah, I give him a
maybe-
week.
probably just like uses Twitter to advertise it. That's what he's doing, right? Like, he's getting everybody over to the backups, just like I'm doing with the meme page. He's like, no, I'm not doing the Twitter thing. You're not tricking me again. Like, I could be banned. Like, come over to this one. Like, I don't know.
I don't
What do
have
you
any
guys think is going
predictions
to happen?
other
Like
than
anything that you want to like put into like audio that you'd be willing to stand by? I don't know. I feel like it could go anyway. Like
I
think
know
we should
one
just
Also,
make
we
a
have some-
series. Sorry, I just think. Let me just put this out there. I think we should make a series of videos that we can change. We can move the goalposts on, like those ones that they do about the CPC falling. 10 more days. It's
6
all
days.
over.
Oh,
But
6
we
days
can
till Twitter
we can do
collapses.
that for Twitter, so we could just
Yeah,
keep
let's start
that gravy
milking
train
that.
going.
I'm
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
It's very
Sorry.
good. That's a very
ahead,
good
Nat.
idea. Oh, I was just gonna say I don't think the masses are going to want to learn what servers are. So Mastodon is not going to be Twitter's savior or Twitter's refuge.
Apparently, it's already having a lot of problems just from people trying.
I
Yeah,
tried.
Ben Norton's already getting like censored by server admins.
You want to talk small
shitting
business
me?
tyrants? It's basically the same thing.
Do we want to hand out some "I told you so's" to the liberals who thought that if we voted hard enough, we could save Roe v. Wade and all that?
Oh man, that'd be a
Oh, I
great thing
forgot
to just
about
end
that.
each episode with "I told you so's."
Dude,
That reminds me,
I-
actually, we should have. I wanted to bring some like comments that would make us all angry. That's always like just some cheap heat. Like that is one of the most easy things to do for like content. But sorry, we didn't have Brandon. But yeah, that's. I'm glad you mentioned that because that was a whole nother topic that I wanted to bring up before we leave. But go ahead, Brandon. What'd you have?
Oh, just other Brandon has come out and said that even with a Democratic majority in every conceivable way, they are still not going to be able. I don't remember if they're not going to, or if they feel like they can't, or what. But
Womp womp.
yeah,
Feel
for
like
all the
it.
options they have, just none of them would be,
If only
suffi-
we
like-
won. If only they won the House.
Yeah,
They just don't feel like it.
Yeah.
you're tired. Listen, fatigue's real.
Yeah, we've been doing this. We've been doing nothing for 2 years. I mean, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, they just don't feel like it right now. Maybe if we vote really hard in 2 years, maybe that.
Yeah.
What really happened was like we voted hard, but we did not vote hard enough.
You
And
get us 70 senators without us doing anything. Sorry, Mike, go ahead. But then we'll do
No, I
it.
was just gonna ask. Does anybody have any actual numbers? Because to pick up sort of where we left off last week, like I said last week, I had no actual numbers. There were still some seats that were being counted or whatever, and I was just going off of vibes that generally there was not a red wave. Like, what is it that Republicans won big in Florida and they won a seat in New York or something? Like they won big in a couple spots and that was it. And so basically, Democrats have no excuse to not do everything that they promised. That they said they were going to like codify Roe versus Wade, legalize marijuana, forgive student debt. Did they even mention anything on healthcare? Were they even trying for that one? Probably not, right? Like that's just off the
No,
table.
I think that's
nothing
just
going on there.
yeah.
That's a
doing that.
non-issue, not in this country. But yeah, so that was what we were saying last week was that the Dems won big, and we can imagine that everyone is going to see some material improvements in their lives, and they're going to get all that stuff that they were promised, right? And it was not even a day later. Was it the next day, Nick? Like he was like, "No, we
Yeah,
can't codify
next
Roe
day.
versus Wade. We just can't do it. Sorry, bro.
It's
Sorry,
like
bro."
it just doesn't look like the votes are there for us because I think they did lose the House, right? So they kept the Senate, and they might gain a seat. I think if Warnock wins that
Mm.
runoff with Walker, I think they'll keep the Senate. Obviously, they have the
Is that still
presidency,
not
but they-
final?
Wait, did they lose the House?
Yeah, yeah. The Republicans have this like a slim majority in the House, I believe.
And the Senate?
No, the Dems have the Senate.
Uh, I just Googled it, and it's 48 Dems, 49 Republicans, 2 independents, and 1 undetermined.
Well, Bernie's one of the independents.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Womp. Yeah, and we still don't know about Herschel Walker in Georgia.
Don't
which is
forget
just-
that,
I thought they
really
dropped it.
Kamala Harris's like one thing that she can do is be a tiebreaker vote in the Senate.
Yeah.
And so,
In
and
any
she's
case,
like,
it doesn't fucking
The
matter.
one thing
'cause
she
they're not
can't
gonna
do is
fucking
speak
do
coherently
anything.
anymore.
I truly believe COVID fried her brain. Nick, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go off the interruption, but I
No, it
truly
was-
believe COVID fried her brain. Anyway, go on.
No, I was just gonna say none of this. It's all fucking moot because they're not gonna do a goddamn thing anyway
Mhm.
that we would like. So it
Absolutely
doesn't
right.
matter.
And there's no reason we should believe that they would.
Yeah, but one day later, to Mike's point, Biden put out a tweet, and there was like an article associated with it or whatever, and it was just like, I don't think that there's gonna be enough there for us. So again, there's nothing that I can do on the executive level, despite slinging out business, executive orders that were favorable to businesses and oil and gas exploration and shit like that. Nothing we can do, for social issues, helping working class people, nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to emphasize how much the right will be foaming at the mouth the entire next 2 years, while Biden is doing nothing materially that we wanted him to do, and they will be pissing and moaning about things that he is doing, and they will be like minor shit here and there, like some kind of regulatory tax or like this like minor what do you call it? Like the kind of stuff that Dems actually do get done, and it's usually so marginal, but the right will spin it as they do. Like think about like we were talking about Iran earlier. They will spin it to make it seem like Biden is bringing fucking Marxism, Leninism, Maoism to America right
Mhm.
now. Like he's hanging dogs in the street and boiling babies. Like they will make it seem so fucking
Mhm.
horrific, and we're gonna have to fucking deal with that bullshit. I don't know. It's really dismal, man. It really pisses me off. Sorry, Ward, what did you just post in the chat?
Oh, it was this fucking clip of Kamala Harris where she's like,
She like brought like illustrations or something, and she's just like so fucking loopy talking, and
Oh,
it's like
no.
captioned, "She's on the most divine pharmaceutical cocktail
Yes.
known to man."
Is she doing that laugh? That fucking
Yeah.
crazy laugh?
That's actually what I was thinking of while I was going off my little fucking doomer rant there. Like I was thinking of how jealous I am of Kamala, like and whatever she is on, because she just seems like she's gliding, man. Like she's just sailing through it. I'm like, damn, like that
They
must be
don't talk
nice.
about her a lot, do they? It's like they're
Ugh.
trying to like kind of hide that away a little bit, isn't it?
In
Well, it's
my
like what
head,
they
as
did
soon
at
as
the
she
beginning
came
with
out hard
Flint.
pro-slavery, the rest was just gone.
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I missed
Bef-
that one.
That was my
But
fault.
I'm exaggerating a little bit. Prior to the election, but like while they were still campaigning, Kamala, when she was whatever she was in California, had openly said, prosecutor had openly said that they could like a lot of people were supposed to be released from prisons because of overcrowding and like so nonviolent offenders and such. And she said that they can't release those people because they need the labor.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
and she
pro-slavery.
refused to like
Saying we
even-
can't let people free because we need their free labor, to me, is coming out hard as pro-slavery.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
I mean, literally, that's what it is. That's not an exaggeration.
Mhm.
I was
That's
using
literally
more
the
dramatic
definition
terms
of the
than
word.
necessary, but in the most literal terms, yes, she came out hard pro-slavery.
If they're going to be a maximalist, we need to be maximalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I haven't paid attention to her since then because I could not hate another person as much. Like, if the next election was Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I would struggle. Like, I would no, I wouldn't. I would just go hard Mike on this and just be like, oh, yeah, voting is bullshit. Fuck
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is just. Go ahead, Matt.
How hard is it
No,
to get
no, you-
Chinese citizenship?
Yeah, that's what we should just
Or do
go
they
for
need-
Chinese citizenship. Nick, you go on. I don't really have anything to add.
No, I was just gonna say it is just so exhausting, and Mike, you were getting at this because it's like they're gonna say all this shit, and it's always the same with us. It's like where our task is so difficult when it comes to talking about people because it's like, yeah, we fucking hate the Dems too. We fucking do. Trust us on that, you know. But like, I have to sit here and also explain to you why the conclusion you're coming to has like some really bad shit associated with it. You know what I mean? Like we have to talk about, global capitalism, anti-Semitism, all this kind of shit. And it's just so fucking tiring. And I don't look forward to it.
Yeah, you brought up anti-Semitism. I wanted to clarify real quickly. Earlier, I said Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, that they were going to make Biden seem like a baby boiler, and that's definitely just Maoist. Those are like, like there's the weird offshoot Maoists. Marxism, Leninism, Maoism is actually pretty basic, and that's fine. But I was just like literally stalling for time while I was trying to find words. But since you mentioned the anti-Semitism thing, just real quick, since we have a few minutes, I noticed there's a weird thing among supposed, again, quote unquote leftist. They tend to be like sort of the Patsock variety, and they're the same ones who are like defending Kanye and then Kyrie Irving for doing some anti-Semitic shit. And I guess just to clarify, what I think is another reasonable stance, again, being the only normal people in the world here, I feel like you can definitely say it's hypocritical for people to be criticizing Kanye and Kyrie Irving for sharing YouTube videos or whatever bullshit they're saying online and doing not a whole lot materially to advance the cause of anti-Semitism or whatever, other than like literally convincing other stupid people that it's cool, and then also arming and funding Ukrainian Nazis and everything. We say that that's bad too. Like we say that's definitely hypocritical, but it gets into a weird territory when you start defending Kanye and Kyrie, and you say that like these people should be allowed to just share this shit. It's like no, actually, like that shit is still anti-Semitic propaganda, and it's really fucking weird for you to defend them sharing it. Like, it you're not like the actual anti-Zionist when you're like say defending these guys. It's like there's anti-Zionism, which is like criticizing the state of Israel, criticizing colonialism, criticizing apartheid and everything, criticizing what the U.S. has done, what they set up with the fucking Balfour Declaration with England and everything. Like you can definitely criticize all that shit, but then when you start getting in this weird territory and you start talking about the Jewish people and all the fucking like protocols of Zion propaganda and the weird shit they're getting into, then you're in the wrong. And I don't know. I just we again, it's just this the familiar pattern. Like you can see it. It's like these chauvinist quote unquote leftists who never really fucking show up for things, and they're just like these. They really only tout off to like defend Dave Chappelle when he says something transphobic or defend whatever fucking free speech cause that they care so much about that just so happens to align with the right and the reactionaries. And it's like we all see what's going on here. Like this is very transparent shit, and that's just kind of what I'm finding with these people overall is they rely on this fictitious third party to judge them based on what they're saying as if their intent is not clear. And
I have a
just
solution. Hear me out.
yeah.
We bring back and slightly reform in America the Shining Path.
No, those are the bad ones I was talking about earlier. Those are the
I said
the baby
reform.
boilers.
I said reform.
No, we don't believe in reforms here.
Well, I'm not going to boil babies either. All right, some babies. That's
Yeah,
that's
you're
a
gonna-
compromise. Some
Only
babies.
the fascist ones.
You're gonna lightly steam some toddlers.
Fascist dumplings.
Flambe infants.
You know that
Yeah.
not to go on too much of a track or a tangent, but I really don't know a whole lot about the Gonzaloites. I don't know about the boiling babies thing. That sounds like atrocity propaganda to bring it back, but I also don't know anything about their
That's supposed to
philosophy.
bullshit too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything about their philosophy or anything like that. I don't know anything about Peru, to be honest.
They were genuinely problematic from like even some of the more generous accounts I've read. There was a lot of like homophobia and just word.
I just don't know.
If I'm wrong,
Word's got a hot take hand up. I don't know.
No, I got resources to it in the Discord I can pull up, and so like I'm just trying to go off of the top of what I can remember. So the babies weren't boiled in water to be killed, but
it's not a
this
good,
is not a good start to a thought.
boiling water was used to kill innocent women and children, including infants, by the Shining Path.
Hmm.
So like saying they were boiled is like kind of Yeah,
all did.
Yeah, it wasn't some Bugs Bunny in a pod shit with a carrot.
Jesus.
yeah. To put it lightly, like it's the whole like peeing in the pool and peeing into the pool difference.
That's a damn fine analogy.
I don't know if I get that analogy, but
There is no difference.
Yeah, that's
sounds
kind of
deep.
That's the point.
Well,
Is
the
there
difference
no
is I don't
difference.
have to swim and pee.
Oh yeah,
All right, well, we're at an hour, you guys. You think that's a good enough place to wrap it up on?
that is an excellent place to leave
Well,
it.
As hard as I just derailed that, I think that this is done.
Oh my god. Well, you know what? It was entertaining as always. I feel like it was a good one. Thank you all. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks
Yeah.
All right,
everybody.
See you
take
guys.
care.
see ya.
Bye.
Have a good night.